Washington's voice cracked as she stood in the middle of her office, staring at the man who had just been introduced as her new business partner. The same man who had made her teenage years a living nightmare. The same man whose face she saw in every bad dream. The same man who was now looking at her with tears streaming down his face. "Brielle, please," Kang Minyu whispered, his Korean accent still thick after all these years. "I know I don't deserve even a second of your time." "But nothing," Brielle cut him off, her dark brown hands trembling as she pointed toward the door. Get out before I say something I'll regret." Now you're probably wondering how we got here. How did the boy who tormented a girl for years end up as her business partner? And why on earth is he crying? Well, buckle up, because this story is going to take you on a ride you won't see coming. Let's rewind 15 years. Brielle Washington was 14 years old when she first laid eyes on Kang Minyu. It was her freshman year at Ridgemont High in Atlanta, Georgia, and she was already dealing with enough. New school, new faces, the pressure of being one of the few black girls in the advanced placement classes. The last thing she needed was a new enemy. But that's exactly what she got. Minyu transferred to Ridgemont from Seoul in September of 2008. He was tall for his age, with sharp features and eyes that seemed to look right through people. The girls thought he was mysterious. The boys thought he was cool. Brielle, she didn't think much of him at all. At least not until he opened his mouth. It started small, a comment here, a snicker there. Minyu would walk past Brielle in the hallway and mutter something in Korean to his friends. They'd laugh. She'd feel her stomach twist. She didn't speak Korean, but she knew mockery when she heard it. "Just ignore them," her best friend Sienna told her one afternoon as they sat in the cafeteria. Sienna was munching on French fries, completely unbothered. "Boys are stupid, especially 15-year-old boys." "I know, Brielle said, pushing her food around on her tray. "But it's annoying, like, what did I ever do to him?" She would find out soon enough. One day in October, Brielle walked into her English class to find the words "Brielle is a nerd nobody likes" written on the whiteboard in big, bold letters. The whole class went silent when she walked in. Some kids looked away. Others smirked. And there, sitting in the back row with his arms crossed and a satisfied grin on his face, was Minyu. Mrs. Patterson, their teacher, quickly erased it and acted like nothing happened. But the damage was done. Brielle felt humiliation burn through her chest. She sat down, kept her head low, and promised herself she wouldn't cry. Not in front of them, not in front of him. But Minyu wasn't done. Over the next 4 years, he made Brielle's life miserable. He'd accidentally knock her books out of her hands in the hallway. He'd mock the way she dressed, the way she talked, even the way she walked. He gave her cruel nicknames that other kids started using. Beanpole Bri because she was tall and skinny. Awkward Bri because she was quiet and kept to herself. The worst part, Minyu was smart. He knew exactly how far to push without getting caught. Teachers loved him. He was polite, respectful, and always turned in his homework on time. If Brielle ever tried to tell someone what was happening, it would look like she was overreacting, so she stayed silent. And she survived. By senior year, Brielle had built walls around herself. She stopped trying to make friends. She stopped speaking up in class unless she had to. She focused on her grades, her college applications, and her escape plan. She was going to get out of Ridgemont High and never look back. Minyu, meanwhile, seemed to be living his best life. He was popular. He played soccer. He had a girlfriend, a pretty blonde girl named Kelsey who hung on his arm like a trophy. He had everything. Everything except a conscience, apparently. Graduation day in June of 2012, was supposed to be Brielle's fresh start. She wore her cap and gown, walked across that stage, grabbed her diploma and smiled for the camera. Her mama, Lorraine Washington, was in the audience cheering louder than anyone. Her little brother Jalen was there too, waving a homemade sign that said, "Congrats, sis." Brielle didn't look back as she left that school, not once. She went to Spelman College in Atlanta, majored in business administration, and threw herself into her studies. She made real friends. She found her confidence. She learned to love herself again. And most importantly, she never heard the name Kang Minyu again. Until now. Fast forward to the present day, May 2023. Brielle Washington, now 29 years old, sat in her corner office at Washington & Associates, a marketing firm she co-founded with her college roommate. She was successful. She was respected. She was happy. Or at least she was until her business partner, Amara, walked in with some news. "Bri, we need to talk," Amara said, closing the door behind her. She had that look on her face. The one that said whatever she was about to say, Brielle wasn't going to like it. "What's wrong?" Brielle asked, setting down her coffee mug. "So, you know how we've been looking for an investor to help us expand into international markets?" Amara started, sitting down across from her. "Yeah. Well, we got one, a big one, Kang Enterprises out of Seoul. They're willing to invest $5 million. Brielle raised an eyebrow. "Okay, that's great, so what's the problem?" Amara hesitated. "The problem is that the CEO's son is going to be our liaison. He's moving to Atlanta to oversee the partnership. His name is Kang Minyu." The room went cold. Brielle felt like someone had just dumped a bucket of ice water over her head. "What did you just say?" "Kang Minyu, do you know him?" "Do you know him?" Brielle wanted to laugh. "Do you know him?" She wanted to scream. Instead, she just sat there frozen as 15 years of buried trauma came rushing back. "Bri," Amara leaned forward, concerned. "Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost." Brielle swallowed hard. "I need a minute." That night, Brielle sat on her couch with a glass of wine in one hand and her phone in the other. She'd been staring at Minyu's LinkedIn profile for the past 20 minutes. There he was, older, more polished, still annoyingly handsome. His profile said he'd gotten his MBA from Stanford and had been working at his family's company for the past 5 years. Good for him, Brielle thought bitterly. He gets to live his perfect life while I'm still dealing with the scars he left behind. Her phone buzzed. It was a text from Amara. "Amara, Minyu lands tomorrow at 3 p.m. Meeting at 5 p.m. I know this is weird, but we need this deal, Bri. Please don't bail on me." Brielle sighed. She typed back. "Brielle, I'll be there." She didn't sleep that night. The next day, Brielle showed up to the office in her best power suit. Navy blue, tailored, expensive. If she was going to face her past, she was going to look damn good doing it. Amara met her at the door. "You ready?" "No," Brielle said honestly, "but let's get this over with." They walked into the conference room together, and there he was. Kang Minyu stood by the window, looking out at the Atlanta skyline. He turned when he heard them enter, and the smile on his face froze the moment his eyes landed on Brielle. "Brielle," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Mr. Kang," Brielle replied coldly, refusing to use his first name. For a moment nobody moved. Amara looked between them, confused. "Wait, do you two know each other?" "We went to high school together," Brielle said flatly. Minyu opened his mouth like he wanted to say something, but Brielle cut him off. "Let's keep this professional, shall we? You're here to discuss the investment, so let's discuss it. The meeting was painful. Minyu kept trying to catch Brielle's eye. She kept avoiding his gaze. Amara talked numbers and projections while Brielle sat there, barely listening, her mind screaming at her to run. When the meeting finally ended, Amara excused herself to take a phone call, and that's when Minyu made his move. "Brielle, can we talk?" he asked, standing up. "No," she said simply, gathering her papers. "Please, just 5 minutes." "I said no." "Brielle, You what?" She finally looked at him, and all the anger she'd been holding back came pouring out. "You want to apologize, you want to explain. You want to tell me you were just a stupid kid and you didn't mean it. Save it. I don't care." "I know I hurt you," Minyu said, and to Brielle's shock, his eyes were glistening. "I know I was cruel. I know I made your life hell, and I have regretted it every single day since." "Good," Brielle said coldly. "Live with it." She turned to leave, but Minyu stepped in front of her. "I'm not asking you to forgive me. I don't deserve that, but please just let me explain why." "Why?" Brielle laughed bitterly. "Why does it matter? You bullied me for 4 years. 4 years, Minyu. Do you know what that did to me? Do you know how long it took me to feel like I was worth something?" A tear rolled down Minyu's cheek. "I know, and I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." And that's when Brielle said the words from the beginning of this story. "You don't get to waltz back into my life and pretend those years didn't happen. If you think Minyu has some nerve showing up after all these years, drop a comment saying BRIELLEDESERVES better, and hit that subscribe button, because trust me, this story is about to get even crazier. What could Minyu possibly say to justify what he did? Stick around to find out. After that confrontation, Brielle stormed out of the office and didn't come back for 2 days. She called in sick. She ignored Amara's calls. She sat in her apartment, eating ice cream and watching old reruns of her favorite shows, trying to forget that Kang Minyu was back in her life. But on the third day, Amara showed up at her door. "All right, enough," Amara said, pushing past Brielle and walking into the apartment. "We need to talk." "There's nothing to talk about," Brielle said, closing the door. "Oh, there's plenty to talk about. Starting with the fact that you've been hiding in your apartment for 3 days and won't tell me why you hate our new investor." Brielle sighed and sat down on the couch. "He bullied me, Amara, in high school for years." Amara's eyes went wide. "What?" "Yeah, Minyu was the guy who made my teenage years miserable. And now he's here, acting like he wants to make amends, and I can't." Amara sat down next to her. "Bri, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. Do you want me to cancel the deal?" Brielle looked at her best friend. Sweet, optimistic Amara, who had worked just as hard as Brielle to build this company, who deserved this opportunity just as much. "No," Brielle said finally. "We need this deal. I'm not going to let him ruin this for us." "Are you sure?" "I'm sure." Brielle took a deep breath. "I can handle Kang Minyu. I'm not that scared of a 14-year-old girl anymore." But as she said those words, she wasn't entirely sure she believed them. When Brielle returned to the office, she found a bouquet of sunflowers on her desk, her favorite flowers. Attached was a note in handwriting she recognized immediately. "I know flowers can't fix what I broke, but I remember these were your favorite." Brielle crumpled the note and tossed it in the trash. The flowers, though, she kept them. She told herself it was because they were pretty and it would be a waste to throw them out. But deep down, a tiny part of her, a part she didn't want to acknowledge was touched that he remembered. Over the next few weeks, Minyu tried everything to get Brielle to talk to him. He brought her coffee in the mornings. He complimented her presentations in meetings. He stayed late to help with projects, even when he didn't have to. And every single time, Brielle shut him down. "I don't need your help," she'd say. "I'm just trying to be nice," he replied. "I don't need you to be nice. I need you to do your job and stay out of my way." But Minyu didn't give up. One evening, as Brielle was leaving the office, she found him waiting by her car. "What do you want?" she asked, exhausted. "I want to tell you why," Minyu said. "Why did I do what I did? Please, Brielle, just hear me out. If you still hate me after, I'll leave you alone. I promise." Brielle should have said no. She should have gotten in her car and driven away. But something in his voice, something raw and desperate, made her stop. "Fine," she said. "You have 10 minutes. They sat on a bench outside the office building. Minyu took a deep breath and began. "When I moved to America, I was 15 and I was terrified," he said. "I didn't speak English well. I didn't understand the culture. I was bullied at my school in Seoul for being too quiet, too weak. So when I got to Ridgemont, I decided I wasn't going to be that kid anymore. I was going to be strong, tough, someone people respected." Brielle listened, her arms crossed. "And then I saw you," Minyu continued. "You were smart, confident. You didn't care what people thought. You were everything I wasn't, and I hated you for it. I was jealous, so I made you my target. I thought that if I could tear you down, I'd feel better about myself." He looked at her, his eyes filled with regret. "But it didn't work. Every time I said something cruel to you, I felt worse. And by the time I realized what I was doing, how much I was hurting you, it was too late. I'd already built this reputation, and I was too much of a coward to stop." Brielle stared at him. "So you bullied me because you were jealous?" "Yes." "And you kept doing it because you were a coward?" "Yes." She shook her head. "That's the most pathetic thing I've ever heard." Minyu nodded. "I know, and I don't expect you to forgive me. I just needed you to know that I'm sorry, and that I've spent the last 15 years trying to become a better person. The kind of person who would never hurt someone the way I hurt you." Brielle stood up. "Your 10 minutes are up." As she walked to her car, Minyu called out, "Brielle." She turned. "For what it's worth," he said quietly, "you were right to hate me. I deserved it, I still do." Brielle didn't respond. She just got in her car and drove away. But that night, as she lay in bed, she couldn't stop thinking about what he'd said. And for the first time in 15 years, she wondered if maybe just maybe people could change. The next few weeks were strange. Brielle and Minyu maintained a professional relationship, but there was something different. The hostility was still there, but it was softer, less sharp. They worked together on the expansion project, and to Brielle's surprise, Minyu was actually good at his job. He was smart, detail-oriented, and respectful of her ideas. One day, during a particularly stressful meeting with a difficult client, Minyu jumped in to defend one of Brielle's proposals. The client had been dismissive, talking over her and acting like her ideas weren't worth considering. But Minyu shut it down. "Excuse me," Minyu said, his voice firm. "Ms. Washington is speaking. I suggest you listen, because her strategy is the reason this campaign is going to succeed." The client blinked, taken aback, and for the rest of the meeting he actually listened. After the client left, Amara looked at Minyu with newfound respect. "Nice work there." "I was just stating facts," Minyu said, glancing at Brielle. Brielle didn't say anything, but later, when they were alone, she approached him. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for earlier." Minyu looked surprised. "You don't have to thank me. You deserve to be heard." "Still, thank you." It was the first civil conversation they'd had since he arrived. Things shifted after that. Slowly, carefully. Brielle started to let her guard down just a little. She'd ask Minyu for his opinion on projects. They'd grab lunch together with Amara. He made her laugh once, an actual, genuine laugh with a terrible joke about marketing analytics. But Brielle was still cautious, because no matter how much Minyu had changed, she couldn't forget what he'd done. The scars were still there, and she wasn't sure they'd ever fully heal. One Friday night, the team decided to go out for drinks to celebrate closing a major deal. Brielle almost didn't go, but Amara convinced her. "Come on, Bri, you've been working non-stop. You deserve to have some fun." So Brielle went, and of course Minyu was there. They ended up sitting next to each other at the bar. Amara and the rest of the team were laughing and dancing, but Brielle and Minyu stayed back, nursing their drinks. "Can I ask you something?" Minyu said after a while. "Depends on the question," Brielle replied. "Why did you keep the flowers?" Brielle's eyes widened. "How did you?" "I saw them on your desk. You kept them for 2 weeks." Brielle looked down at her drink. "I don't know, I guess I appreciated the gesture, even if I didn't want to." Minyu smiled softly. "You always loved sunflowers, even back in high school. You had a sunflower sticker on your notebook in English class." Brielle looked at him surprised. "You remember that?" "I remember everything about you, Brielle." The air between them shifted. It was charged, heavy, and Brielle didn't know what to do with it. "I should go," she said, standing up abruptly. "Wait," Minyu said, grabbing her hand gently. "Did I say something wrong?" "No, I need to go." She pulled her hand away and left. "Okay, can we just talk about how Minyu remembered the sunflowers? Is he really changing, or is this just manipulation?" Comment Team Minyu if you think he deserves a second chance, or Team Brielle if you think she should keep her walls up. And don't forget to like and subscribe, because episode 2 is going to blow your mind. That weekend, Brielle couldn't stop thinking about Minyu, about the way he'd looked at her, about the way he'd remembered her favorite flowers after all these years, about the way he defended her in that meeting. She called Sienna, her best friend from high school who now lived in New York. "So let me get this straight," Sienna said over the phone. "The guy who tormented you for 4 years is now your business partner, and he's trying to apologize." "Yeah," Brielle said. "And you're starting to believe him." "I don't know, maybe." Sienna was quiet for a moment. "Bri, I love you, but you need to be careful. People don't just change overnight." "I know." "Do you, though? Because it sounds like you're starting to fall for him." I'm not falling for him," Brielle said quickly, too quickly. Sienna laughed. "Okay, girl, whatever you say." But after they hung up, Brielle sat with that thought. Was she falling for Minyu? No, absolutely not. That was ridiculous. Right. The cracks in the wall asterisk. Brielle told herself she wasn't falling for Kang Minyu. She told herself that the flutter in her stomach when he smiled at her was just indigestion, that the way her heart raced when he said her name was just anxiety. The fact that she thought about him every night before she fell asleep meant absolutely nothing. But Brielle Washington had never been good at lying to herself. It was a Tuesday morning in June when everything started to unravel. Brielle walked into the office to find Minyu already there, looking stressed. He was on the phone, speaking rapid Korean, and he looked like he hadn't slept. When he hung up, Brielle approached him. "Is everything okay?" Minyu ran a hand through his hair. "It's my father. He wants me to come back to Seoul." "When?" "Next week, permanently." Brielle's heart sank, which was ridiculous. She should be happy. This was what she wanted, right? For Minyu to leave and go back to his life so she could go back to hers. "Oh," was all she managed to say. Minyu looked at her. "I told him no." Why?" "Because I'm not done here. The project isn't finished, and he hesitated. "I don't want to leave." "Minyu, if your father needs you." "He doesn't need me. He wants me to take over the company, but I'm not ready. And more importantly, I don't want to go." "Why not?" Minyu took a step closer. "Because you're here, Brielle." The room went silent. Brielle's breath caught. Don't what?" "Don't say things like that. Don't make this complicated." "It's already complicated," Minyu said softly. "It's been complicated since the day I walked into this office and saw you again." Brielle shook her head. "This is a bad idea. We're business partners, that's it." "Is it?" "Yes." "Then why did you keep the flowers?" "I already told you." "And why do you smile when you think I'm not looking? Why do you laugh at my terrible jokes? Why did you leave the bar that night like you were running away from something?" "Because I was," Brielle snapped. "I was running away from you, from this. From whatever you think is happening between us, because it can't happen, Minyu. You hurt me. You broke me. And I can't just forget that because you're being nice to me now." Minyu's face fell. "I know, and I'm not asking you to forget. I'm just asking you to give me a chance to make it right." "You can't make it right. Some things can't be fixed." "Maybe not," Minyu said, "but I have to try." Over the next few days, Minyu doubled down on his efforts. He started bringing Brielle her favorite lunch, grilled chicken salad from the place down the street. He left little notes on her desk with encouraging words. He even learned how to make Korean-style fried chicken, which he brought to the office one day because Brielle had mentioned she'd never tried it. "This is really good," Brielle admitted, biting into a crispy piece. Minyu grinned. "My mom's recipe. She made me learn before I moved here, said I'd need comfort food." "Smart woman." "She is. She also told me that if I ever hurt someone, I needed to spend the rest of my life making it up to them." Brielle looked at him. "Is that what this is? Are you trying to make it up to me?" "Every single day," Minyu said seriously. Brielle didn't know what to say to that. But just as Brielle was starting to soften, something happened that threw everything into chaos. A woman showed up at the office. Her name was Hannah Park, and she was beautiful. Tall, elegant, with long black hair and a designer dress that probably cost more than Brielle's rent. She walked into the office like she owned the place and asked to see Minyu. "I'm sorry, who are you?" Amara asked. "I'm his fiancée," Hannah said with a smile. Brielle, who had been walking past, stopped dead in her tracks. "Fiancé?" Minyu came out of his office, and the moment he saw Hannah, his face went pale. "What are you doing here?" "Is that any way to greet your future wife?" Hannah said, walking up to him and kissing him on the cheek. Brielle felt like she'd been punched in the stomach. Minyu gently pushed Hannah away. "We need to talk in private." He led her into his office and closed the door. Brielle stood there, frozen, as Amara walked up to her. "Did she just say fiancé?" Amara whispered. Yeah, Brielle said numbly. She did. For the next hour, Brielle tried to focus on work, but all she could think about was Minu and Hannah in that office. What were they talking about? Were they kissing? Was he introducing her to the team? When Minu finally came out, he looked exhausted. Hannah was gone. Brielle, can we talk? He asked. No, Brielle said, not looking up from her computer. Please, it's not what you think. I, I don't care what it is. Brielle. I said I don't care, Brielle snapped, finally looking at him. You have a fiancé, Minu, that's great, congratulations, now leave me alone. She grabbed her bag and left. That night Brielle cried. She hated that she cried. She hated that she cared. She hated that she'd let herself believe, even for a second, that Minu could be something more than the boy who hurt her. But most of all, she hated that her heart was broken all over again. If you think Minu is a fraud and Brielle needs to run, comment, Hannah can have HIM. And smash that like button because you're not ready for what happens next. Subscribe so you don't miss the drama. The next morning, Brielle showed up to work with her walls back up. She was cold, professional, distant, and when Minu tried to talk to her, she shut him down. We need to discuss the expansion timeline, she said flatly. Brielle, please, just let me explain about Hannah. There's nothing to explain. Your personal life is none of my business. It is when it affects you. It doesn't affect me. You're lying. Brielle glared at him. Excuse me. You're lying. You do care. And I care about you, Brielle. That's why I need to tell you the truth about Hannah. I don't want to hear it. She's not my fiancée, not really. Brielle paused. What? Minu sighed. Our parents arranged the engagement when we were kids. It was supposed to be a business merger between our families, but I never agreed to it. I told my father years ago that I wouldn't marry someone I didn't love. Hannah knows this, but she's been trying to convince me to go through with it anyway. Why? Because her family's company is struggling, and marrying me would save it. Brielle crossed her arms. So what, you're just going to break her heart? I'm not breaking her heart. She doesn't love me. She loves what I represent. Security, status, money. And what do I represent? Brielle asked quietly. Minu looked at her with an intensity that made her knees weak. Everything I don't deserve but want anyway. Brielle didn't know what to do with that confession. So she did what she always did when things got too complicated. She ran. She threw herself into work. She avoided Minu as much as possible. She pretended that her heart wasn't doing backflips every time he walked into the room. But then one night, everything changed. Brielle was working late, alone in the office, when she heard a knock on the door. She looked up to see Minu standing there, holding a bag of takeout. I brought dinner, he said. I'm not hungry. Brielle, please, I know you're mad at me, but I can't keep doing this. I can't keep pretending that I don't. He stopped himself. What do you do? Brielle challenged. Minu set the food down and walked over to her desk. That I don't have feelings for you. Brielle's heart stopped. I know I have no right to feel this way, Minu continued. I know I hurt you. I know I don't deserve a second of your time, but I can't help it. I've been in love with you since we were 17 years old, and I was too stupid and too scared to admit it. Brielle stood up. You're lying. I'm not. You bullied me for 4 years, Minu. You don't bully someone you love. I know, and that's the worst part. I loved you and I still hurt you, because I was angry at myself for feeling something I didn't think think I was allowed to feel. Because you were black and I was Korean, and I knew my parents would never approve. Because you were perfect and I was broken. Tears streamed down his face. I took my hatred for myself out on you, and I will regret that for the rest of my life. But I'm not that scared kid anymore, Brielle. I'm a man who knows what he wants. And what I want is you. I want a chance to love you the way I should have from the beginning. Brielle's hands were shaking. I don't know if I can trust you. Then let me earn it, Minyu said, stepping closer. Let me prove to you that I'm not that boy anymore. Let me show you that I can be the man you deserve. Brielle looked into his eyes and saw something she'd never seen before. Vulnerability, honesty, love. And for the first time in 15 years, she let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, he was telling the truth. Okay, she whispered. Minyu's eyes widened. Okay. Okay. One chance, that's all you get if you mess this up. I won't, Minyu said, taking her hands in his. I promise you, Brielle, I won't. And then slowly, carefully, he leaned in and kissed her. It was soft, tentative, like he was afraid she'd pull away. But Brielle didn't pull away. She kissed him back. And in that moment, all the pain, all the anger, all the hurt from the past 15 years started to fade. Not completely, but enough. The man who loved her best, Brielle Washington, was falling in love with Kang Minyu. And it terrified her. After that kiss in the office, things between them shifted. They started dating quietly at first, coffee dates before work, dinner after late nights at the office, long walks through Piedmont Park where they talked about everything and nothing. Minyu was patient. He never pushed her. He let her set the pace. And slowly, Brielle started to let him in. She told him about the nightmares she'd had in high school, about the therapy she'd gone through in college to deal with the anxiety and self-esteem issues his bullying had caused, about how hard it was for her to trust people, especially men. And Minyu listened. He didn't make excuses. He didn't try to downplay what he'd done. He just listened and apologized and promised to spend every day making up for it. I can't change the past, he told her one night as they sat on her couch, but I can make sure the future is different. How? Brielle asked. By loving you the way you deserve to be loved, with respect, with kindness, with everything I have. Brielle rested her head on his shoulder. You're doing a pretty good job so far. Minyu smiled and kissed the top of her head. Good, because I'm not going anywhere. But of course, life is never that simple. Hannah Park wasn't done. She started showing up at the office unannounced. She'd call Minyu at all hours, demanding to talk. She even cornered Brielle in the parking lot one day. You think you can just steal him from me? Hannah said, her voice icy. I didn't steal anyone, Brielle replied calmly. Minyu made his choice. He's confused. You're a distraction. Once he comes to his senses, he'll realize that I'm the one who's good for him. I'm the one his family wants. I'm the one who fits into his world. Brielle stepped closer. Let me make something very clear. I don't care what his family wants. I don't care what you want. The only thing I care about is what Minyu wants, and he wants me. So do yourself a favor and move on. Hannah's eyes narrowed. This isn't over. Yeah, Brielle said, getting into her car. It is. But Hannah's words stayed with Brielle. I'm the one who fits into his world. Did she fit into Minyu's world? He came from a wealthy, traditional Korean family. She was a black woman from Atlanta whose mama worked 2 jobs to put her through college. Their worlds couldn't be more different. That night, Brielle brought it up to Minyu. Do you ever think about how different we are? She asked as they ate takeout in her apartment. Different how? Minyu asked, looking up from his noodles. Culturally, your family is traditional Korean. Mine is Black American. What if they don't accept me? Minyu set down his chopsticks. Then they'll lose me. Minyu. I'm serious, Brielle. I don't care what my family thinks. I don't care what anyone thinks. I love you. And if they can't accept that, then that's their problem, not ours. But what if it becomes our problem? What if they try to break us up? Minyu reached across the table and took her hand. Then we fight, together, you and me against the world if we have to. Brielle looked at him, this man who had once been her tormentor and was now her biggest supporter, and she realized something. She was all in. Completely, terrifyingly all in. Okay, she said. Okay. Okay, let's do this for real. Minyu grinned, for real. A few weeks later, Minyu invited Brielle to come with him to Seoul. His father wanted to meet her. Are you sure about this? Brielle asked nervously as they boarded the plane. I'm sure, Minyu said, squeezing her hand. My father needs to understand that you're not going anywhere, and the best way to do that is to meet you. The flight to Seoul was long, but Minyu made it bearable. He told her stories about growing up in Korea, taught her a few Korean phrases, and held her hand when the turbulence got bad. When they landed, Brielle was a bundle of nerves. Minyu's father, Kang Ji-won, was exactly what Brielle expected. Tall, stern, intimidating. He looked at Brielle like she was a puzzle he couldn't quite figure out. So you're the woman my son has been talking about, Ji-won said in accented English. Yes, sir, Brielle replied, trying to keep her voice steady. And you run a marketing company? Yes, sir. I co-founded it with my business partner. Ji-won nodded. Impressive. Minyu speaks very highly of your work. Thank you. There was an awkward silence. Then Ji-won said, my son tells me you went to high school together. Yes, sir. And that he was unkind to you. Brielle glanced at Minyu, who gave her an encouraging nod. Yes, sir, he was. Ji-won looked at his son. And you think you deserve a woman you once mistreated? No, Minyu said honestly. I don't. But Brielle has given me a chance to prove that I've changed, and I'm spending every day trying to be worthy of that chance. Ji-won studied them for a long moment. Then, to Brielle's surprise, he smiled. Good. A man who knows his faults and works to fix them is a man worth respecting. He turned to Brielle. My son made mistakes, big ones, but he is a good man now, and if he loves you, then I will support that. Brielle felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you, sir. Call me Ji-won, he said. We're family now. The rest of the trip was wonderful. Minyu showed Brielle around Seoul, introduced her to his friends, and even taught her how to make kimchi with his mother, who was warm and welcoming and kept hugging Brielle like she was already her daughter-in-law. On their last night in Korea, Minyu took Brielle to a rooftop overlooking the city. This is beautiful, Brielle said, looking out at the lights. Not as beautiful as you, Minyu said. Brielle laughed. That was cheesy. I know, but it's true. He turned to face her, suddenly serious. Brielle, I need to tell you something. Okay. Minyu took a deep breath. I know we've only been together for a few months, and I know I don't deserve you, but I also know that I don't want to spend another day of my life without you. He got down on one knee. Brielle gasped. Brielle Washington, Minyu said, pulling out a small velvet box. Will you marry me? Brielle's hands flew to her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. Are you serious? I, I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Queenjoy. I know it's fast, and if you're not ready, I'll wait. I'll wait as long as you need. But I needed you to know that I'm all in. You're it for me, Brielle, you're the one. Brielle looked at the man kneeling in front of her, the man who had hurt her and healed her, the man who had shown her what real love looked like. And she knew her answer. Yes, she said, laughing through her tears. Yes, I'll marry you. Minyu stood up, slipped the ring on her finger, and kissed her like his life depended on it. And in that moment, Brielle realized something. The boy who had hurt her most had truly become the man who loved her best. Okay, I'm crying. Are you crying? Comment I BELIVED in them. If your team Minyu and Brielle forever. And if you're not subscribed yet, what are you waiting for? Hit that button because we're not done yet. 6 months later, Brielle and Minyu got married in a beautiful ceremony in Atlanta. Her mama cried. His parents flew in from Seoul and embraced Brielle's family like they were their own. Sienna was the maid of honor. Amara gave a hilarious speech about how she knew they'd end up together before they did. It was perfect. But the best part came during Minyu's vows. Brielle, he said, holding her hands as tears streamed down his face, I spent 4 years of my life hurting you, and I will spend the rest of my life loving you. You taught me what it means to be strong, what it means to forgive, what it means to be loved for who you really are. I don't deserve you, but I promise to spend every day trying to. I love you, today, tomorrow, and forever. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. 5 years later, Brielle and Minyu sat on their porch in their home just outside Atlanta, watching their 3-year-old daughter, Zara, play in the yard. She had Brielle's brown skin and Minyu's eyes, and she was the light of their lives. Can you believe we're here? Brielle asked, resting her head on Minyu's shoulder. Sometimes I still can't, Minyu admitted. Sometimes I wake up and I'm terrified that this is all a dream. It's not a dream. I know, but I'm still terrified I'll mess it up. Brielle turned to look at him. You won't. You're not that scared kid anymore, remember? Minyu smiled. Yeah, I remember. He kissed her forehead. I love you, Brielle. I love you too. As they sat there watching their daughter laugh and play, Brielle thought about how far they'd come. From enemies to lovers, from pain to healing, from brokenness to wholeness. It hadn't been easy. There were still hard days when old wounds resurfaced and they had to work through them together. But they always did, because they'd learned that love wasn't just about the good times. It was about showing up, even when it was hard, especially when it was hard. And Minyu showed up every single day. He went to therapy to deal with his own trauma from being bullied as a kid. He volunteered with anti-bullying organizations to help other kids avoid making the mistakes he did. He became an advocate for interracial couples, speaking openly about the challenges they faced and how they overcame them. But most importantly, he loved Brielle, fiercely, completely, unconditionally. And Brielle loved him back. The lesson asterisk. As Brielle tucked Zara into bed that night, her daughter looked up at her with wide eyes and asked, Mommy, how did you and Daddy meet? Brielle smiled. That's a long story, baby. Was it love at first sight? Brielle laughed softly. No, sweetheart, it wasn't. Daddy and I had a complicated start. He hurt me when we were younger, and it took a long time for me to forgive him. But you did. I did because he showed me that he changed. He didn't just say he was sorry. He proved it every single day. Zara thought about that for a moment. So people can change. Some people can, Brielle said carefully, but only if they really want to, and only if they're willing to put in the work. Saying sorry is easy, Zara, but showing you're sorry, that takes time and effort and love. Do you love Daddy? More than anything. Does he love you? He does so much. Zara smiled. Good, because you're the best mommy ever, and he's the best daddy ever. Brielle kissed her daughter's forehead. Good night, baby. Good night, Mommy. As Brielle closed the door and walked back downstairs, she thought about the lesson her story had taught her. People can change, but change requires accountability, effort, and time. Forgiveness is not weakness, it's strength. And real love isn't about perfection. It's about showing up, doing the work, and choosing each other every single day. The boy who hurt her most had become the man who loved her best, not because he said the right words, but because he lived them. And that made all the difference. If this story touched your heart, hit that like button and subscribe for more emotional, real, and powerful love stories. Drop a comment telling me what you learned from Brielle and Minu's journey. And remember, you deserve someone who doesn't just say they love you, they show it. Every single day. See you in the next story.